Pumpkin Soup by Helen Cooper. Deep in the woods, there's an old white cabin with pumpkins in the garden. There's a good smell of soup. At night, with luck, you might see a bagpiping cat through the window, a squirrel with a banjo, and a small singing duck. Pumpkin soup, the best you've ever tasted, made by the cat who slices up the pumpkin, made by the squirrel who stirs in the water, made by the duck who scoops up a pipkin of salt and tips in just enough. They slurp their soup and play their song, then pop off to bed in a quilt stitched together by the cat, embroidered by the squirrel, and filled with fine feathers from the duck. It's peaceful in the old white cabin. Everyone has their own job to do. Everyone is happy, or so it seems. But one morning, the duck woke up early. He tiptoed into the kitchen and smiled at Squirrel's special spoon. "Wouldn't it be fine," he murmured, "if I could be the head cook?" He drew up a stool, hopped on top, and reached until his beak just touched the tip of the spoon. Ker-plunk! Down it clattered, and the duck trotted back to the bottom bedroom and held up the spoon and said, "Today, it's my turn to stir the soup." "That's mine," squeaked the squirrel. "Stirring is my job. Give that back." "You're much too small," snapped the cat. "We'll cook the way we always have." But the duck held tight until Squirrel tugged with all his might, and whoops! The spoon spun through the air and bopped the cat on the head. There was trouble, a horrible squabble, a row, a racket, a rumpus in the old white cabin. What do you think the word squabble means? "I'm not staying here," wailed the duck. "You never let me help with anything." He packed up a wheelbarrow and put on his hat and waddled away. "You'll be back," stormed the cat, "after we've cleaned up." And the squirrel shook his spoon in the air, but the duck didn't come back. Not for breakfast, not even for lunch. "I'll find him," scoffed the cat. "He'll be hiding outside. I bet he's in the pumpkin patch." But the duck was not in the pumpkin patch. They could not find him anywhere. So they waited all that long afternoon. The cat watched the door, the squirrel paced the floor. That duck will be sorry when he comes home," they muttered. But the duck didn't come home, not even at soup time. The soup wasn't tasty. They made it too salty. They didn't even feel hungry anyway. They both sobbed over supper. Their tears dripped into the soup and made it even saltier. "We should have let him stir the soup," sniffed the squirrel. "He was only trying to help," wept the cat. "Let's go out and look for him." The cat and the squirrel were scared as they wandered down the path in the dark, dark woods. They feared for the duck, all alone with the trees and the foxes and the wolves and the witches and the bears, but they couldn't find him. On and on they trudged to the edge of a steep, steep cliff. Look at this picture to help you figure out what steep means. "Maybe he fell down." "That," wailed the cat. "I'll save him," squeaked the squirrel, and scrabbled down the long, shaky rope. They searched all around on the ground, but couldn't find the duck. It was soup, made duck famous. How does he do it? They go in thin, they come out fat. The cat whispered in a sad voice. "The duck may have found some better friends." "He might," sighed the squirrel. "Friends that let him help." and the more they thought about it as they plodded back, the more they were sure that they were right. But when they were almost home, they saw a light shining from the old white cabin. "It's Duck," they shrieked as they burst through the door. And Duck was so happy to see him. He was also very hungry. And though it was late, they thought they would all make some pumpkin soup. When the duck stirred and the cat and the squirrel didn't say a word, not even when the duck stirred the soup so fast that it slopped right out of the pot, not even when the pot got burnt. Then Duck showed the squirrel how to measure out the salt, and the soup was still the best you ever tasted. And once again, it was peaceful in the old white cabin until Duck said, "I think I'll play the bagpipes now." All right, friends, we have 2 vocabulary worksheets to talk about. The first one, we have the word steep, slurped, squabble, wailed, wander. The sheep will blank around the field all day. The sheep will blank around the field all day. Steep, slurped, squabble, wail, wander. Sam and John began to blank over who would go first. Sam and John began to blank over who would go first. Steep, slurped, squabble, wailed, wander. Sam and John began to blank over who would go first. We were scared to walk near the blank cliff. We were scared to walk near the blank cliff. Steep, slurped, squabble, wailed, wander. We were scared to walk near the blank cliff. Reggie blank when the bee stung him. Reggie blank when the bee stung him. Steep, slurped, squabble, wailed, wander. Reggie blank when the bee stung him. Peg blank the coffee from her mug. Peg blanked the coffee from her mug. Steep, slurped, squabble, wailed, wander. Peggy blanked the coffee from her mug. Pause the video here if you need more time. Squabble, wail, slurp, steep, wander. A picture of a cliff is that squabble, wail, slurp, steep, wander. Number 2, people that seem upset. Squabble, wail, slurp, steep, wander. Number 3, a little girl who is looking lost. Squabble, wail, slurp, steep, wander. Number 4, a baby crying. Squabble, wail, slurp, steep, wander. Number 5, a girl drinking her drink loudly. Squabble, wail, slurp, steep, wander.